Ho, ho, ho. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans, college football playoff fans, Christmas fans, holiday fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. Clay, can I call you Santa all day, or do you want me to stick with the script?
But I've got a new nickname for you, as Matt Patricia said of his great linebackers, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. You have sudden savviness.
Thank you very much. Sudden savvy.
That's it.
I never heard that used, when it comes to football players. Sudden burst.
Sudden savvy.
Sudden awareness, but sudden savvy. I guess sudden awareness and sudden burst would be incorporated into sudden savvy. So that sums it up. That means you get there and you get there in a bad mood. It's our special Christmas Eve show, first one we've ever had. We were going to have music and dancers and stuff, but we didn't have the budget for it. We barely had the budget for what we're doing, but that's another story. Bottom line is, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays.
You, brother. Oh, best to all the Mays.
I've totally enjoyed.
And your younger brother, Tony, who's going to be 68.
In 4 days, 3 days.
Are you serious?
Yeah, December 27th.
Oh, my.
Yeah, special day coming up in his life.
I know his game. Every
birthday over 50 is a special day.
That's right.
That's right. An anniversary not to be missed. But I digress. Speaking of anniversaries, Ohio State's going back to the Cotton Bowl. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Where they were just under a year ago when they beat Texas in one of the more dramatic games you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Sawyer's still living on that dime, I hope. He lives on that the rest of his life. But the bottom line is
he's making a check, though, in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he is. And Pittsburgh looks like they may be headed to the playoffs. Pretty crazy how bad the AFC Central, or whatever it's called now, AFC North is.
9-6.
Yeah, crazy. But I digress. Bottom line is Ohio State's going to the Cotton Bowl for the college football playoff quarterfinals about to play Miami, a team they beat in the 2002 BCS National Championship game at Fiesta Bowl in Tempe, Arizona, back when it was in the Sun Devil Stadium, which was kind of a cool spot. You were there. You were there. I was there.
31-24 and double OT.
Mount Cush right over there where the players at Arizona State used to run up the mountain to train back in the good old days. But the bottom line is that's still as we talk here, that's as you're watching this on Christmas Eve, that's still 8 days away. Ohio State's not going to the game until the 28th and late in the afternoon, early evening of the 28th. To get ready for the Cotton Bowl on the 31st, New Year's Eve. And it's interesting because, in the old days when you went to big-time bowl games like the Cotton Bowl, because Cotton Bowl was a big-time bowl game a long time ago, then it kind of hit a denouement, and then the college football playoffs and stuff resurrected it.
But you pack for 8 days almost,
a
lot of these trips.
Yeah.
And especially you guys with the Dispatch and the 10 TV tie-in and Vero Beach. Dommy's told me about some. Is that
Dodger Town?
Bingo. And that was forever.
That was forever. They were down there for 2 weeks, and I went down, but my company let me fly back for Christmas and fly back down. Thank goodness. Kept my marriage afloat. It's funny how you want to be two places at the same time. Because I always worry if I'm not somewhere, I'm missing something, missing out on something. You know what I mean? And
I know exactly
when you're covering a beat, you just want to be there, but then you miss. Boy, when our family was growing, I just miss those guys so much. It was crazy. That's why I love my grandsons right now.
Sure.
They're really enjoying Christmas. And hope they like what Grandpa got them. We'll see.
Are you going to get that stuff wrapped in time?
No, because I just found out we're babysitting them on Christmas Eve, which is when you're watching this. But I'll be busy babysitting, which for me means playing whatever sport my 4-year-old grandson wants to play. Every 10 minutes he changes from hockey
right
to baseball where tossing the ball and with a soft little soft pitch thing to football. He really loves football. He thinks he's Jeremiah Smith. Every time he catches the ball one-handed, he looks at me and he goes, Jeremiah Smith. Not laughing. He's serious.
Oh yeah.
He's as serious as an IRS audit. And because Jeremiah Smith's his favorite player.
The worst part
that's Charlie.
Wrapping all that stuff, because I would prevail upon my wife to rap Eli, Judd, Parker, but you can't prevail upon your wife to wrap her own presents.
No.
And so then you're in a bind, and it's 12:30 on Christmas Eve. Go ahead.
One year, I said, I proposed to my wife, hey, you get yourself something from me, and I'll get myself something from you. You know what I mean?
You picked it.
Yeah. And then, whether it was wrapped or not.
Sure.
Here's the thing about it, real quick before we move on. By the way, I've got a really nice interview coming up with the mother of Riley Pettijohn, Ohio State's freshman, running a linebacker who's going back home. Literally, he's from McKinney.
That's right.
McKinney, Texas, which is right up the road from Dallas, right across the street from right across the road from Frisco, where the home of the Cowboys really is, the Big A up there north of Dallas.
That's right.
But she's put together a booklet that helps from their experiences of Riley being recruited, helps parents deal with some of the major FAQs, frequently asked questions or conundrums about being recruited, the recruiting game, and gets into a little bit of the NIL challenges and stuff like that. And of course, there's revenue sharing now, and
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But boy, is she a refreshing. No offense to you, but she's a much refreshing person to deal with. Let's put it that. I want to say look at, but yes,
I'm not
quite refreshing to look at as opposed to looking at you across his desk. But Juliet Pettijohn, man, just parents to me, man, they're the backbone, man. There's the right ones. Just are cool to get to know. Just like with Julian saying in his group, his high school coach, Ed McNeil's one of my favorite people now. And it's, I don't know, all these players have somebody behind them. And definitely Riley Pettijohn has a couple of parents behind him who are big time.
Well, isn't it great? We get to rub shoulders with those people.
Yeah, it is.
We come into contact, and then they become resources and friends and so on and so forth.
I try to spruce up and look, act and look as well as I can, like putting lipstick on a pig. I know. But with some of those things, because I just want them to have a good impression of me. Don't really get to know me that well, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well,
I'm just
nobody forgets you, brother.
Yeah, I'll bet. But anyway,
that's it.
We both digressed. But I wanted to get to the precursor to that interview with Juliet Pettijohn. Boy, I told her, man, you might hear me say that in the interview. I said, what a name. I said, that conjures memories for me of Richie Pettibone.
Right.
Remember Richie Pettibone?
Yes,
what a great.
Isn't that something?
Great name. But Riley Pettijohn, just like Peyton Pierce, he's from Texas too, Yeah. And that's a great name for a linebacker. But so is Riley Pettijohn. It's Pettijohn with the tackle. I mean, it's, you don't want to shorten that at all. You want to give that full regalia when it comes to pronouncing it. And, he's come on, he's not in the starting lineup, maybe not in the rotation yet, but man, he's going to be there without a doubt, because that man, when he hits you, he hits you.
Well, 6'2", 231. He might be a slightly smaller version of Arvell Reese. I mean, they describe him in high school, volume tackler. I mean, can play in the middle. So
he likes to get to the fire. If he was a fireman, you want him to be a fireman because he wants to get to the fire as fast as possible. And just so bottom line with any young linebacker, you got to still stay on the road. On the road prescribed before you get to the fire, as in take care of responsibilities, etc. But man, you don't want to see him running at you.
Well, he's huge.
He had Julian saying in the spring one time, wow. That was a big time when they took the black shirts off the quarterbacks a couple of times, because Ryan Day realized he didn't have anybody. None of his quarterbacks had really played much, if at all. Well, I'm sure Lincoln Keno's remember getting popped in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago by Missouri when he was shoved into duty and really hadn't been prepared very well at all. But neither the offensive line, the worst offensive line game I can remember ever seeing Ohio State play since I've been covering them over 4 decades. So anyway, but the bottom line is, but those quarterbacks had not really had any contact per se. And Julian kind of scrambled up the middle and bam.
I recall.
Hello.
Yeah. It was ugly.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get to it. I wanted to pay a little more tribute. I mean, I gave this guy some tribute earlier in the year, because everybody, if you're paying attention to this, or if you've heard me on radio or television, there's a player on this team that I like almost everyone. I like all of them, but there's this, I am partial to the big dudes, man.
Okay.
And when the big dudes come along, like Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, and Jonathan Hankins.
I never got to meet him.
Big Hank, I could name about 10 more. But the bottom line is I'm partial to the big guys because that's what make it football is the collisions.
The trenches.
The trenches. You start from the trenches on any football team and go out from there. If you have really, really weak trenches, you probably don't have much of an army.
That's true.
I don't want to get too deep into that analogy, but the bottom line is this guy, Kayden McDonald, played well last year, was in on quite a few of those goal line stands, et cetera. He played better than I think some people who are covering the team even remember. He played extensively in the playoff run and was in there, like on the Texas goal line stand. He was in there earlier in the year on the Penn State goal line stands, right on down the line. And big man in the middle, man, you can't beat it. But when the big man in the middle gets in shape, which is what he did this year, meaning as in he was in shape a year ago, but now he's
fighting.
It's hard to explain. Almost everything you see from a weight standpoint with him now is there for a purpose, which is the number one, not just plug the middle, attack the middle. Who knows what his true weight is right now, but he's a big man, well over 300 pounds, and has played like it. And you'll hear me asking him in a minute about what does it mean to be a unanimous. That is the major All-American teams are unanimous All-American. First one since Jim Stillwagon.
They're going to find out how long ago that was.
You'll hear him pay homage to that. I reminded him of Jim Stillwagon's. Jim Stillwagon, one of his claim to fame was, and he and I talked about it a lot of times. Stillwagon was, he gave the center a vicious pop on that first play, and basically
he let him know.
I don't know if he let him know all day. It's going to be all day.
All day.
And Kayden plays with that edge, a little bit of an edge to him. You're not allowed to do some of that stuff anymore. I guess you can do it if nobody's seeing you, but he liked that. He liked that little joke. But the point is, Kayden McDonald is no joke, man. When the whistle blows, he's clearly one of Matt Patricia's favorites. Yep. Matt Patricia, who's up for the Frank Broyles Award, which goes annually to the top assistant coach in college football. His first year as the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. His claim to fame, obviously, helping New England Patriots win 3 of their Super Bowls during the Bill Belichick years as a defensive coordinator. And boy, is he taken to college football defensive coordinating, if in fact that's the correct way of usage.
Well, those two, I mean, the hugging and the funny story about he's got the eye black, and he puts so much on that somebody said to Matt.
You're talking about Kayden McDonald.
Right.
Yeah, you left that part out.
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about those two, but
yeah, we are. But you didn't. You made it sound like it was Matt Patricia who put it on. Go ahead.
Oh, well, Matt Patricia got it smeared on him because every time they would hug, and Kayden's a hugger, and so is Matt. But it would get all over
his face pregame,
one side of his face. Like, what happened to you?
Yeah, his beard would
Kayden
be,
hugged me.
As he said, his beard would be super, almost jet black on one side, and it was like he was 30 years old or such on one side, and whatever I am now on the other. And so he'd have to towel off even before the game. But the bottom line is, what a great young man Kayden McDonald is too when you talk to him and stuff. I mean, you heard me. Maybe I'll play that clip of me asking about how many pairs of glasses do you really have, because it seems like every time you talk to him, he's got a different pair of glasses on, which is kind of cool. I remember he had a pair on after one game that had one of those kind that has the Connor Stallions that has a camera in it. Connor Stallions model. He might have had those on the other day, as a matter of fact, when we were interviewing him. And then he has these ones on that are almost clear plastic around and stuff. He just
he's got the Ray-Bans.
He's got a pair of glasses for whatever the mood strikes him. But let's get to my yeah.
What does it mean to you to be a consensus All-American? I think maybe even unanimous All-American, Kayden. And how far you've come, et cetera, the way you changed yourself this season, et cetera, and to find it paying off. What does that mean to you?
First and foremost, I want to thank God, and I want to thank Coach Johnson, Coach Day, the strength staff for believing in me. Hasn't been done in 55 years, so I know he's smiling down. Jim Stillwagon smiling down at me, and I'm just really blessed to play at Ohio State and be on the biggest stage.
There you go, man. I mean, there's just a tip of the iceberg. Sure, heard how humble and stuff he is there, right?
The link to greatness.
But let me tell you something. The big man on campus, the big man on campus knows he's the big man on campus, no matter how he carries himself. That was like you, right, in high school at Upper Arlington?
Yeah, right.
Weren't you the BMOC?
Woo!
Well, anyway, we're going to get into I think it was Adam King from Channel 10 asked him a question just about, this upcoming game, et cetera, and the challenges and stuff. And we're going to get to that video here now because I think that this is enough to create a little bit of a ripple, if not a wave going into this game, this quarterfinal game with Miami.
These guys are ready to strike somebody. It's been a while, 25 days until they actually,
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see what
foot the ball is.
See what Adam King asked him, and he has a really great answer.
We've heard a lot about balancing and trying to peak at the right time when it comes to being ready on New Year's Eve. What has the last 2 weeks looked like for you guys? How much have they been normal practices, or have they really been toned down? Is there anything you can compare it to, like a fall camp or anything?
There's no toning down here. We're on a mission to be the first team to win a back-to-back national championship. And, I believe in my teammates, and I know we're going to do it.
What needs to be added to that? We'll add to it, but what needs to be added to that?
Yeah.
The big man has spoken, and you can argue with him if you want, but that just having that shot of him behind the podium doesn't do justice to how big a man this big man is. I was talking about this on the radio this week. A couple of times I've helped co-host on 97.1 The Fan, and just about the confidence that this Ohio State team has about it, but also the chip on its shoulder, a chip they put on their shoulder by losing that game to Indiana the way they did, knowing now that they're not having that perfect season, but they know they're better than that, if that makes sense to you.
Yep.
And, of course, we'll find out on New Year's Eve because you got to win 3 of these things in a row against big-time opponents. And but anyway, let's get to more with Kayden McDonald. But it's just funny because once a team gets on a mission, but, every team's on a mission at this point, right?
Oh, my.
And, they were privileged. Ohio State was privileged to get to watch Miami play Texas A&M, even though it was a super windy day down at College Station, Texas. But they saw them pull out the win. And they also saw in the fourth quarter, Mark Fletcher, their running back, the guy who had committed to Ohio State way back when, before changing his mind and staying near home with Miami, watched him rip off a couple of runs, which got him going on their one touchdown drive, the only touchdown drive of the game for either team and stuff. And so Austin Ward was asking him about that from the standpoint of the confidence of going against a team on Mark Fletcher, but Miami, which did get a running game mustered as it went along. What does that mean, for the guys up front?
You watch Saturday, and Mark Fletcher was hitting some of those runs between the tackles, and that was so key for them to beat Texas A&M.
Wow.
How much of that is going through your mind that is your job to erase that for Miami in 9 days?
Well, Miami, they're a good team, ACC, but it's all about us. And I feel like the preparation I put in, I feel like I won't be blocked. So whatever they got for us, we coming.
How do you not like that?
I won't be blocked.
Maybe a coach or two wouldn't like that, but how do you not like that if you're in the media and you hear a guy say that?
Right.
But he's played like that, man. I mean, there are times you can watch. I truly believe, even though, the myth is that you can play exactly the same on every play. You can summon the same strength on every play from one play to the next. Even if you're in there for 50 or 60 plays, some people think, because he played a lot of plays against Michigan, he played a lot of plays. Well, they only I think he only how many plays did Michigan have in the first half? It wasn't very many. But anyway,
Yeah.
Played a lot of plays against Indiana. The idea that you can be the same guy every play from an effort standpoint is baloney, especially for the big guys. But boy, when you summon it, when you see Caden Curry just put his head down and come after you, and when you see Kenyatta Jackson, you know, you have to hold or tackle Kenyatta Jackson sometimes, keep him from getting to you.
That length.
And the ref still didn't call it. We'll get on that in another pregame Tim May show just about Kenyatta Jackson and you know he didn't bite into the frustration aspect of it. Basically, the coaches and fellow players say, "Hey, don't get held, don't get held." There, finally got it out.
Yeah.
Don't get held. Don't let them hold you. But I said, but when they bear hug you, that's a different challenge. When one guy grabs you and the other guy grabs you below.
Yeah, it was like a high-low Indiana.
But anyway, go ahead.
On Kayden, one of the pieces I read about him, and I think this sums him up perfectly. He is a trench monster.
Yeah, I like that.
He owns that real estate.
He wades. It reminds me sometimes of, I called it MacArthur going ashore at the Philippines, just wading through the water, you know, with his long pants on. He said, "I will return," and it's like Kayden McDonald does that every play. But I'm impressed by a lot of things about Kayden McDonald's game. The reason he's a unanimous All-American is he gets upfield. He also covers a lot of girth in the run game.
That's it.
You know, he grabbed I think it was an Indiana running back recently. Guy came through the line, thought he'd gotten through the A gap here, and it looked like Kayden had attacked the other side, the other A gap, and came across the center's face and just reached out with his arm and
drug him down.
Yeah, he didn't clothesline him. He reached out with his arm and just sort of like stopped him, and three other guys smeared him. But but that's a man. That's a big man. That's a big man on campus right there. But, you know, let's get to one more thing. When he was asked about his confidence, et cetera, by Andy Anders, I think it was. But, I'm just talking about when, you know, confidence. Where does that confidence come from? It's not just looking in the mirror and going, "I'm the biggest guy around." You know, you've got to.
Comes through achievement.
Exactly. So let's hear what Andy Anders, I think, asked him this question again, which is pretty interesting. Kayden McDonald's answer.
I kind of wanted to follow up on what you said earlier. You know, feeling like you won't be blocked regardless of what's put in front of you because of your preparation. Is that when did you arrive at that level of confidence in your career? Was it during this season? When did that happen?
My whole life.
Take me through that. How did that build over your whole life?
You know, you go through life changes, you know, you go through ups and downs, you know, people leave out your life, you know, family, you know, my brother, you know, my mom, you know, it's been hard, but, you know, having those hard life changes and not like having anything to like look forward to now, you can't take it for granted. So I feel like it's instilled in me and from my family and my bloodline.
Boy, those were.
How do you? I don't know. How do you dislike a guy like this, man?
Yeah. Well,
but then again, if you're on the other team, you know, how do you like a guy like that?
But he's been inspired through the tough times that he's had to deal with these losses, I guess, in his family, and I don't know.
Bottom line is,
I've been very fortunate. I haven't had to.
Yeah.
How many people have to come through things like that?
Yeah. But bottom line is, I'd like to have him play Santa Claus because I'm sure he's confident he would get to every house. As people are listening to us tonight, and this is dropping on Christmas Eve, and plus he would look the part, big time.
He would.
Now you might have to stock up on some hefty reindeer to get both him and all those presents airborne. But he could do it. And speaking of airborne, or not even a good segue there, but I did ask him about his glasses because I asked him about his glasses in post game before, but just because, like I said, it seems like every time you see him, he's got a different pair. And you know why? Because most of the time he does have on a different pair than he had on the previous time you saw him. Remember when he came walking out in those shoes a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. He's styling, man.
Dude, when you're that big, it's like Shaq. When Shaq can do anything he wants, and people will either respect him for it or think it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, which
One or the other.
yeah. But no, are you going to call him on it? Absolutely not.
Don't think so.
Yeah, but let's get to me asking him about his eyewear. Like I said, I like the big guys. I like everything about them, and they decide. You know, it's like a tractor trailer truck. If it's in front of you and it pulls over in front of you, you can honk your horn, but you sure don't want to mess with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn that.
Yeah. And remember, like I said a while ago, those shoes that Kayden McDonald came out in that one day at a press conference. And then he shows up at this one with this certain pair of sunglasses on or glasses on. He'll tell you why right here, but I don't know. These kind of things intrigue me as much as him attacking the A gap.
But the throwaway question: how many pairs of glasses do you own?
Ordered like 10. You know, I always have to change it up. You know, especially on game days. You know, I got to put the buffs on. But when I'm in here on the weekdays, I got to put the Ray-Bans on. So
yeah. Laughs all the way through it. But
that's right.
One of my favorite guys, he's going to get to play against the Miami Hurricanes. Everybody is talking about the Miami Hurricane defensive front and Ohio State's offensive front going into this game. The challenge that they face with going against Reuben Bain and that group of Marauders up front, the Miami Marauders. But I'm telling you what, the Buckeye Dam Busters, or whatever you want to call them, dam makers and then busters, which is the Ohio State defensive front, which has played. I always thought the four starters were going to play well, but even their backups have stepped up. Definitely on the defensive tackle room. I mean, Tywan Malone, they needed something out of him to go with Edric Houston. Then Tywan Malone kind of became the starter. You know, we'll see who starts at that other defensive tackle spot as this goes on. Will Smith Jr.
Yeah.
Right on down the line. I think it was Kayden McDonald said, or might have been Kenyatta Jackson, Larry Johnson's approach is just like we talked about earlier. They recruit you because they think you can play at Ohio State, and they develop you. They keep working on developing you. If you look at some of the defensive lines of late, just guys who have played later in their career, even Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau.
Yeah.
Ty Hamilton, and before him, Devon Hamilton, his brother. They played later in their career, but boy, did they play well. Tyleik Williams kind of came into his own finally last year, which is why Kayden McDonald didn't play as much because Tyleik Williams had a hell of a year last year.
Larry Johnson just takes your little tool chest and then he keeps adding. And the guys always talk about that, how I've gotten this move and that move and the bull rush and the spin move. And he said, Coach Johnson, they swear by this guy. And you've talked a lot about him and his age. And he's like, I'm not done. And you said at one point that others said, we're ready to usher him out. And he wasn't ready to do that. And he,
three times actually.
Yeah. So he gets it done, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But the great thing is watching these young men grow up. I mean, think about it. Think about being a freshman lineman in major college, the elite level of major college football. It's daunting because number one, if you're big enough to play, you're 9 times out of 10, you've been going against guys who are 50, 60 pounds smaller than you, either one way or the other. So you've lorded over things. You haven't been like, it hasn't been like stepping into a heavyweight fight. As always describe it, a heavyweight, big time heavyweight fight is two guys stepping into a ring, which is square, which doesn't make sense. Stepping into a ring with basically their underwear on and pants and shoes. Their underwear on with gloves on, and they proceed to beat the heck out of each other or try to. And that's what it's like playing in the trenches in major college and NFL football. And it's not just, size it matters, but it doesn't mean as much as just being tough. And by tough, I don't mean just I'm tough. It means tough-minded, that you're going to be there in the fourth quarter like you were in the first quarter. The things that stood out about Kayden McDonald, if you go watch his video, he's a man in the fourth quarter, man, most of the time. Just like Devon Hamilton ended up being, like Ty Hamilton ended up being. Tyleik Williams finally got to that realm.
Still bringing it.
Yeah, and of course, Jack Story and JT Tuimoloau. Caden Curry's at that realm now, in my opinion. Kenyatta Jackson, like I said, can't be blocked, so they hold him. But we'll see if how much the officials come down on the holders in this upcoming game.
It's been
because it was
a lot.
Yeah, but it was pathetic at times against Indiana. Some of that stuff that was going on, and it's been documented by others how long it's been since Ohio State drew
a holding call.
Yeah, a holding call, or more than one. Let's put it that way. But it's crazy. It's almost like the refs are letting the field level itself, which I don't think is the way to go. But you know what? If you had a choice between them letting it go or calling it against your offensive line also, strictly, we'd be here all night. Anyway.
Yep.
Build a fire. We got to cook some weenies. Man, let's get to my interview with Juliet Pettijohn. Been putting it off long enough. Really enjoyed meeting her by Zoom, getting to talk to her, especially this Christmas season, and then the effort she put into, like, not just floating down the river. Like I always say, there are people who just get in life and they're like a leaf. They just float down the creek, wherever it goes. And then there are people that paddle, put in a kayak or a canoe and paddle upstream and try to check out all the sites. They're curious about every landing, everything. I mean, they see a bear. Of course, you get to the other side of the creek when you see a bear, right? I know you do.
Man.
But the bottom line is there are people who are curious about stuff, and then they want to convey what they've learned. And so Juliet Pettijohn is one of those folks. And like I said, the mother of Riley Pettijohn, freshman linebacker, who's going home for this game in the Cotton Bowl. You'll hear us refer to the opponent because we recorded this before Miami and Texas A&M, and she said her son Riley was looking forward to possibly playing Texas A&M.
Of course,
the place where he could have gone in Texas, like University of Texas and stuff. You always want to go home, and you want to go home a champion. And boy, if you can beat a team from inside the state you're from, that's even better, right? But now they're playing Miami, so you'll hear us discuss that a little bit. But
I'm very interested.
My favorite part is when she talks about Matt Patricia, Jim Knowles. You'll hear her refer to Jim Knowles. Wow. I mean, little eye-opening stuff about Jim Knowles in a positive way for Jim Knowles, for sure.
Yeah.
And James Laurinaitis, you can imagine. And just talking about the recruitment of her son. And, of course, Ryan Day. She has great things to say about all those folks. And then, I don't know, you'll enjoy it too. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Juliet Pettijohn. Wow, Juliet Pettijohn, welcome to the Tim May Show.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Nice to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you. Number one, I like how active you are on Twitter. Some people, they have different opinions of X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. But I like how active you are on social media. And then where I saw, obviously you're the mother of Riley Pettijohn, by the way, who met Julian Sayin up close and personal in a spring scrimmage. I don't know if you were there for that. Way back when they took the black shirts off the quarterbacks and let them run. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm just intrigued by what you've done here. You and your husband putting together. It's your husband, right? Put together the book about how to deal. Matter of fact, hold that book up and let people see it.
Let's see. I have a copy here, like my little author's
There you
copy.
go. Fourth and Goal.
Really, it's a little thin book, but
Yes. But what just basically about giving other people who are coming up in this mad world of recruiting major college athletes now, and maybe even minor college athletes. But the bottom line is, give them some guidelines, maybe not guidelines, but some Q&As, some FAQs, right, of what to look for, what to deal with, what you're going to be dealing with as you're being recruited in this NIL transfer portal revenue sharing world. I mean, kind of give people an oversight of what, number one, why you felt compelled to do that, and maybe some of the lessons you've learned.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for having me on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm really excited to talk about this. I probably not talked about it enough, but I think I shared a post the other day. Like I hate gatekeeping. I love
Yeah.
it when people share information with me, and I like to share information with others that's helpful, not just always anecdotal, but helpful. And so, one of the reasons, the main reason, really, that I wrote this book was because I really didn't know anything about the recruiting journey when I got started in this space with Riley. I was working full time, like many parents are. And so, as I'm hearing things about who's coming to visit at the school and coaches that are calling and DMing and texting and want to set up time, I thought to myself, like, well, I've never been recruited for anything. So let me do my homework and do my part to stay organized so I'm not having to ask Riley or my husband Duke, who was recruited, 30 years ago
Yep.
in a very different way, right? All the questions. So it kind of started off with me just creating a little spreadsheet of each school, what conference they were in, who was the coach, where's the school located, things like that.
Yeah.
But I quickly lost track of it. I think after about the fourth week, as his recruiting ramped up, and I'm like, okay, I'm having a hard time keeping up with this. But what I've always done well is like keep really good notes. And so the more I got to engage with coaches and recruiting staff members, the more questions I got to ask and just learn about how each school took on, their recruiting as it related to the portal and recruiting high school students, at specific positions. And, through the process of just really diving in, I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time. I enjoyed the spring visits, the unofficial visits to games, and then the official visits capped off with like the last touch points before we ultimately, as a family, and more importantly, Riley, kind of led in his decision to choose Ohio State. So I wanted to really share this information because I've had parents reach out to me, since then. And, sometimes people think they're kind of bothering you, but, sending you a message through X, right? Or just reaching out to you on another social media platform. But then it's like, I live in this world where I'm surrounded by sports parents, and
Yeah.
mini moms. And so it's like wherever you go, like people have questions. And my sister-in-law, who's got two sons that are, being recruited like back to back, a senior and a junior, she's got tons of questions. She remembers nothing from when her brother played football when she was a little girl. And so I really thought, you know what? I'm going to put this information in a guide to help you and help anybody else. And that's kind of how Fourth and Goal came about. And of course, like Duke having his own experience as, a former recruited athlete who played at Syracuse, who played beyond, Syracuse as well, and has coached and been in all of these spaces. He was just very helpful to make sure, I was not writing something that was going to be like a fluff piece, but more, of a practical guide for parents. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
let's just get right into it then. So, right off the top, what is it that you think parents should know the most? I guess, or
Yeah.
what's the most important aspect of the recruiting that the parents should get involved in? I guess.
Yeah. So I think there's maybe not just one thing, but the way I've kind of outlined the book is to kind of focus on many things or several things that are really important, but collectively kind of all boil down to the same thing. And a lot of it is just organization and communication.
Yeah.
So like Tim, like the first chapter of the book really dives into like what your athlete's responsibility is, because no parent, regardless of the task, wants to be dragging their kid, right? Or pushing them constantly
Yeah.
to achieve a goal that they say they want to achieve, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the first chapter really focuses on the athlete's responsibility.
Wow.
And then it goes into the next chapter, which is the parent's responsibility. And we know as parents, we can do so much for our kids, but we've got to really kind of identify like what the kid is going to do and what we're going to do to support them, right? So
Yeah.
it's not this, constant tug of war and tension, because I think the recruiting journey can be one of the most amazing times for families. And it really is a family journey. It affects everyone in a household. If you've got younger kids like we do, it kind of disrupts things for a time. And I think that, really setting those boundaries and ideas of what, the kid is going to be responsible for and what you're going to be responsible for as a parent is important. And then the next chapter kind of dives into communication and relationships. And I think it is equally important to figure out, like, what are we going to use as a means of communicating what's happening at school, as people are coming to see you and recruit and talk to you, where programs are reaching out for you to attend a camp or to come to a spring game, or to
Yep.
possibly visit a real game during the season. So I think the communication is very important, and it's also important to really identify what relationships are being kind of groomed in a very authentic way.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've had recruiting folks from different programs think that they're really building a relationship by sending a blanketed text message every week, and that's not authentic relationship, right? And then we've seen the opposite, where James Laurinaitis, and others are here, like, in person, and that's different. That looks different. So I think really identifying some of those key things in the beginning are the most important parts. And then you can kind of get more into, like, how should we approach, like, navigating conversations around, like, the offer, or NIL, and revenue sharing, and visits and things like that. I think those three things up front are probably the most important, equally important.
What was your first impression when you met James Laurinaitis? I see, I've known him since he was like 18 years old, maybe 17 years old and stuff. Just, he's always been an impressive young man, and now, of course, he's a father. He's been around. I mean, he's been on radio. I mean, he had a really successful radio show career. Then he got into coaching because he missed football so much. I know you know all of this, but what's just, without naming names of other guys, is your impression of James Laurinaitis, I guess?
So I think the first time I met James, let's see, he came down here to McKinney, and I went up to the school. My husband and I, we went up to the school to kind of sit and talk to him. And he kind of just kept it very, like, neat. Like, he just kind of went through the whole Ohio State, culture, the program, a lot of the things we still continue to hear about today.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, it's funny, Tim, because I was still, working in a role that also required my attention. So I'm running up to the school in between, like, meetings and things.
Yeah.
And on my phone, like, doing, certain things, like responding to people on my team, and trying to listen to James. But overall, I had a really good impression of him. I know Duke was really impressed because he remembered James from his playing days. His favorite wrestlers were, like, the Animal, and so he was really impressed. And I knew that Riley was equally just impressed with what James had been able to accomplish in college as well as in the NFL. And a lot of the decision weighed heavily on having the right coach.
Yep.
And it was a huge part of why Riley chose Ohio State ultimately.
Well, that's what I'm leading to my next question is, how did you, as a parent, you and Duke, I mean, and Riley, how did y'all separate flash and dash and impressive personalities from the business at hand, which was, what did you boil down to? Was the business at hand? Was it, who's going to give my son the best education? Is it, who's going to give my son the best opportunity from a financial standpoint? Who's going to give my son the best opportunity from an exposure standpoint? By the way, he already walked in with Riley Pettijohn, what a name, right? I mean, like Richie Pettibone from my old days, I mean, some kids just have a name,
You like that?
but so how did y'all separate it all and finally end up with Ohio State being the answer? And how would you guide people along those ways of separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I'm glad you asked that because when you're getting kind of wined and dined and
Yeah.
people are putting forth like their very best, marketed, glossy look, it's hard. Every
Yeah.
program looks really great, especially when you're talking about these powerful, programs. And so I think for Riley, it had kind of come down to looking at Florida State was in there, USC, Texas, and Texas A&M.
Yep.
And so I remember we were going to decide like where are we going to do official visits because even though it's unlimited now, like we're not flying all over the country. We're not doing
Yeah.
visits.
That.
There's only so many weeks, right? Like we need to narrow down like the scope. And I remember I had an idea and I was like, I'm going to come up with, a really short survey and you're going to answer these questions and we're going to score each program based on a few things. And whoever has the lowest score, we're going to drop them off. And so I did that. And Florida State at that time dropped way off. And some of the questions, we asked were, how well do you like the city and the campus? How easy is it to get to this school? From an academic support standpoint, have you liked what you've heard so far based on what you want to study? How do you like the head coach, the position coach, the strength coach, the nutrition program that they presented? And what's the depth of the position room? And for Riley, that was like a really big thing. Like every official visit, they ask like, what do you want to see? What do you want to talk about? He'd always say football. He'd always say football. And so like when you pull up Lamborghinis to a kid who wants to talk football, you're missing the mark, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're missing the mark. When you're trying to stuff tomahawk steaks, down someone's throat that wants to talk football, you're kind of missing the mark, right?
Yeah.
You can only eat so many tomahawk steaks, Tim. Like you just, you'd be trying to digest tomahawk steaks for the rest of 2020.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't even imagine that. I mean, it sounds good, and then you get into it, and it's.
It does.
Could I have a pork chop? No, I'm just joking.
At first, right? It's like, can I get some sardines or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those kinds of questions, along with like, what is their plan for your development? How are they going to use you? These are the things that are really important because you can get an offer from a great program, but if there's no plan in place as to how they will use you, or if you look to your left and your right in the position room and nobody's there to really challenge you.
Yeah.
Do you really want, as a 17, for Riley, he was 17 when he got to Ohio State, do you really want to go somewhere and be the one carrying a room from day one?
Start. Yeah. Yeah.
From the start.
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up like being able to really narrow down. And I've actually included that comparison worksheet in the back of the book. So parents can use it for, up to 10 schools and take some notes in those spaces as appropriate, as they're doing their visits. And it's just give the school a 1, 2, or 3 rating with, 3 being the highest. And it kind of helps you take a little bit more scientific approach after you've gotten over the feeling of, oh my God, this food is amazing. And oh my God, like they treated us so nice and, gave us really cool, little knickknacks. I think once you get past that and you, kind of pull the curtains back a little bit more and dig down into what's important, to you as a family and to the athlete, it's helpful that way.
Julia, I used to say about big time recruits like your son, Riley, when you figure it's Ohio State, let's, throw the name Ohio State, Florida State, Texas, Texas A&M, just to name a few who are coming after him. And my big line at one point, like 20, 30 years ago, was you can't really make a bad choice because they're all big time programs, and there are going to be pitfalls everywhere you go and stuff. But I've changed that. I've modified that approach a little bit. I think you can make a bad choice based on, you like I would think you and your husband did at least some homework on, well, wait a minute, how stable is the situation there from a coaching staff standpoint?
Yeah.
All kinds of things that float through social media all the time, but some of it's real, some of it's not and stuff. But I guess just zeroing in just on Ohio State, not throwing aspersions at anybody else. I'm just, in your mind, what did Riley make the right choice? I think he did based on everything you tweet about him. And, the backing you give other players and other parents and stuff about what Ohio State's all about and stuff. But what sold you on Ohio State, I guess, is my biggest question. You personally.
For me personally, I think just the authenticity of Coach Day. I will say, like, Coach Knowles was the first, I think, coordinator or position coach to ever just specifically reach out to me as a mom.
Wow.
So that was very endearing to me. I know. And
Yeah.
I remember, like, I'm like, there's this guy, Jim Knowles, that's texting me and he's telling me he's, having conversations with Riley. So he was the first. And so I think just, as his recruiting progressed with James and then with Coach Day, I don't know. I just think that even before we got to go and visit Columbus, because he hadn't even visited Columbus
Right.
at all.
Right.
Before we even got to visit, they had come here a couple of times. They'd watched him in his spring game. And I think they were just very consistent in what they were presenting as an opportunity for him to be developed and supported. And so for me, I was impressed with every aspect of, walking into the Woody and it just feeling very different. It feels very different. And I tell people now, like, that aren't, specifically at Ohio State, but maybe looking and, have been offered or, have offers in other programs. I said, it's hard. It's hard. But if your kid wants something hard that will challenge them and develop them, I don't know if there's a better program. And I think it just checked all of those boxes, along with being, we talked about, like, ease of travel. Columbus is a 2-hour flight from Dallas direct. So that's really nice. We love the airport, how you can just get in and get out. Easy to get to. I think the city of Columbus is a great place. It's not just a college town, but it is a growing city, with a very big college in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really checked all of those boxes, like, his development, his, ability to kind of navigate around a new city that's diverse. That's another thing that was really important. I mean, it's hard to leave. I think, I'll say this, as a mother of an athlete, but when you leave the athletic facility and you walk around campus, sometimes as an athlete, the conversations we had is it might be really difficult to walk around and see anyone that has something in common with you that looks like you on some of these campuses. And to just be, quite honest. And so, and it was never like, a huge concern, for him. But I remember when we first went to Columbus and he was like, Columbus is, like, really diverse. And I was like, it is. And I'm like, it's really cool to see. And so it's a lot of those things. And I think we, as parents, are able to kind of navigate and help our kids who haven't been, to many places, maybe, previously. It's a great way to, like, have these conversations to really learn more about your child and what's important to them.
As you and I record this, it's middle of December. And this time a year ago, Ryan Day was under a lot of duress. I would think, Riley was headed to Ohio State and stuff. What do you recall of that? But mainly, what do you recall of how Ryan Day handled it? And then on top of that, obviously they won the national championship. Big win right down the road from you there in the Cotton Bowl in the semifinal over Texas and stuff. But what do you recall of how Ryan Day specifically handled that, and what impression, I guess, it's made on you of this man and his family? His wife Nina, and all of that. Just what's your impression of him, I guess, in a nutshell, in that regard?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like, I first met Ryan when he came down here, and he came with James and Coach Knowles at the time. And I remember I had to do that meeting by myself because I think my husband was traveling for work. And so, I kind of had a preconceived notion about Coach Day because I think I, just seen him on TV. I
Yeah.
really didn't know much about him. And I'd only really talked to James and Jim at the time. And so, I mean, he's just impressive as a human and as a leader and a father and as a coach. And so I remember when we attended the game last year, the last game of the season with TUN, and they
TUN.
lost.
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, what happened? And we're leaving the stadium with other recruits, and there were fans like yelling, like, "Fire Coach Day." And we're like, whoa. And you've got all these kids who have are getting ready for their signing day.
Yes.
Literally getting ready for signing day at the time, right? And I don't think there was ever anything that gave pause, to Riley or any of us. I mean, maybe for some families, but I just recall, like, after that, like, having that very frank, like, team meeting, allowing players to express themselves, what frustrated them, during that game, and then making those changes. And we were really fortunate that after, Riley signed and he finished high school, he was able to travel and go with the team to the Rose Bowl. We moved him into Columbus that first week of January, and
Yeah.
then he came right back for the Cotton Bowl, and then we ended up going to the national championship. And honestly, Tim, like, since that whole run, I've kind of felt like we're in some kind of movie, and I'm like, it's
Yeah.
so real sometimes. And I've told people that I've worked with, I'm like, I need to get back to the real world. Like, this is not the real world. And so it's just been really amazing to watch him as a leader, like, never waver
Yeah.
in what he knows he's capable of. And I think I shared with him once during one of our meetings, I'm like, I could totally see you, like, going into corporate or politics or something. Like, he's just really good and consistent, and steady. He doesn't, have these highs and lows and weird, like, lulls where you're trying to figure out, like, who is this today? He's always the same, and he's always willing to do better. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, even though his guts may be flipping up and down, like
Right. You can't tell.
like a Cirque du Soleil act or something. He keeps
Right.
his cool. Last couple things. I could sit here and talk to you for 14 hours, but I know you don't have that much time. With Riley, what's it been like counseling your son as he goes through, a first year and stuff, and is waiting his turn? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I always love these big time athletes who 4 and 5 star guys, especially, who come in and they're used to being the guy. I mean, the person on their team, and then having to wait their turn and stuff. I mean, I've been impressed by when he is in the game, he's 145 miles per hour. I don't know if you agree with me or not on that. And by the way, I don't know how parents watch their sons play football at the major college and NFL level and don't watch it, with their ears instead of their eyes, because, oh my goodness, it's so fast. But that's another story. But how is Riley? I guess what's been your big counseling moment with him this year and stuff of waiting your turn? Because, you got to figure if you put the work in, your turn's coming, but there are guys in front of you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I know he's definitely not alone in that. And I think, again, that's one of the reasons you go to the Ohio State, right?
Right.
Because, when you sit in a room and you've got Sonny and you've got Arvell, it's like, you're not waiting behind trash, right? You're
Right.
not sitting there thinking like, oh, this is political and there's
Teacher's pet. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And learning all three of those linebacker positions, is a lot to take on when you're coming from out of state, learning a new city, going through college courses, living off campus for the all of these things are happening to you simultaneously. Well, Riley just turned 18 in July, so I think he's technically the youngest player on the roster.
Yeah.
But like, and even for his roommate TJ, like they're from Florida and Texas, like there's a lot to adapt to and adjust. And I think he has more of those conversations with his dad because that's a different language sometimes than I speak about, are there any packages and like whatever. Okay. So I don't know about all the different packages, but I know that he is on fire for his opportunity, and he's just really focused on being ready, and really has high expectations for himself for next year.
How did you and your husband deal with the financial aspect of college football now, big time major college football, where you have revenue sharing? Now they get actually, the school, the program actually gets to give them money instead of this, whatever it was before, right?
Right.
And also the NIL. Do you, number one, did y'all hook up with an agent or somebody who can help guide you through that kind of stuff? And is that in your book? I would think it is, of like getting outside help, because that's a can of worms that your husband didn't have to deal with, clearly, you know what I mean, way back when. But I guess what is your impression of that whole milieu that you have to deal with now in that respect?
Yeah. It's complicated, right, Tim? And it's something that we're still, kind of discerning, as parents. We did not have an agent, when Riley signed with Ohio State. And, what was probably a little bit unique in our situation is that Riley did not want to be a part of those conversations with representatives from collectives and universities or with GMs. So he never sat in a room with like, a Mark Pantoni or, someone that represented a university's collective. He did not make his decision based on who could pay him the most money. And so we kind of just took it upon ourselves to have those meetings for him and not share with him like what the schools were offering, even though, we were like, oh man, like, it's kind of surprising in some ways, in a good and bad way. And so once he made his, decision, we just made sure like it was aligned with, where, other schools were coming in, and it was just fair for what he was bringing, into the facility, into the position room. Now we're kind of in a place where we're transitioning because we've, been contacted by several of those, management companies, and we're likely going to make a decision soon. But it's not something he's been in a rush to do because he's not real vocal. He's not on social media posting a lot. He's not necessarily like, oh, I want to get a brand deal and do, NIL with this company. So he's not in a rush to do that. And I think, there is something to, wanting to prove yourself as a player before you build yourself as a brand.
Yeah.
So there is a chapter about NIL and things to consider, when it's appropriate to kind of engage and have those conversations. Definitely asking up front is a little bit tacky to me.
Yeah.
And so I include, in addition to that survey that I shared with you, the little spreadsheet, I include a list of questions for unofficial visits as well as official visits to kind of help navigate, what kind of questions you want to ask. Because in addition to like the financial aspect, you want to know, like, is a coach planning to bounce next year? Are you looking to become a head coach somewhere else? What are your plans? You don't want to necessarily get recruited by, a position coach who leaves before get there, which right now when you look around, like the coaching carousel in the college football space, it's nuts. And so anyway, so
It's crazy.
there's 2 other guides in the book that just offer questions that you can ask in that space, and a little chapter on NIL considerations, and what to consider and think about as you're kind of going into that space.
Yeah, must read for anybody. Well, by the way, where can they find this book?
So it's just on Amazon. It's a self-published.
Just on Amazon. I like how you said
Just
that.
on Amazon, yeah. And it's a recruiting playbook for football parents.
All right.
But it's you can share like with your kids too.
Yeah, great. I'm running a picture of it too as we're doing this. I don't want to give away my production secrets.
Okay.
But hey, last 2 things. I know I said last 2, but that's my calling card. I asked 10 more, but I
Yeah.
promise not to do that.
That's okay.
Number 1, you just touched on a minute ago. Jim Knowles, first guy really get in contact, first guy you're impressed with. Next thing you know, boom, he's gone to Penn State after the national championship. I would think that was a curveball you didn't see coming or didn't anticipate coming. And then in comes Matt Patricia. Number 1, talk about the curveball, but also talk about Matt Patricia has made a huge impact on a lot of people, it appears, from guys we talked to, a very positive impact. What has been number 1, what was your reaction to the Jim Knowles leaving, and briefly, but then what has Matt Patricia meant to the equation?
Well, I mean, I told you, like Jim Knowles was the first coordinator
Right.
from any college just to only reach out to me. I mean, I think Duke was a little bit jealous. And I remember telling my younger brother, who's a huge Ohio State fan, like, this guy Jim Knowles like text me today. And he's like, what? Jim Knowles?
Wow.
So, for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, he needs to stay. Like Riley's not there yet. And I think what I learned from that, and I'm glad this happened the way it did, because I think what it has, kind of given me confidence in is Coach Day's ability to put the right people in the right place, right? And
Yes.
so, I thought Chip Kelly was awesome when I met him. I think Jim Knowles is great. And then to see, something improve from what was already, working very well, honestly, right?
Yes.
Patricia has just been awesome. It's been a full circle moment for my husband because Matt Patricia was a GM at Syracuse when Duke was at Syracuse. And so I think the first day Coach Patricia was at Ohio State, he looked at Riley and thought like, wow, you look so familiar. He's like, you have a dad named Duke? And he's like, yeah, I do. And so
It is a small world.
small
It's crazy.
world.
Hey, by the way,
yeah.
it is really crazy because now Jim Knowles is going to be at Tennessee. You know what I mean? So because of make sure you make more than anything else. Make sure you make your decision based on a lot of things other than the guy who's coaching you, right? Because even in the NFL. Hey, last thing, how big a zoo has it been? You and I talked about this before we started, but how big a zoo has it been knowing Ohio State's next game is going to be at Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, the Cotton Bowl, right down the road from where you are there? I would think that's kind of surreal for you a little bit. My little baby's coming home to play in Jerry's World, but on top of that, I would think there's a big ticket demand one way or the other. And like I told you, I would imagine y'all are hoping Miami beats Texas A&M as we're recording this. They haven't played yet, but just because that would open more tickets, you would think, instead of the Texas A&M, because you know how crazy Texas and Texas A&M fans are. But how cool is it to know Ronnie's next game's in the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And I remember last year we'd just gotten back from Columbus, moving him in to get to the Cotton Bowl, and we had that terrible weather. And like people weren't able to travel. Like, Ohio State fans travel so well, which has been just an additional blessing on top of all the other stuff. I mean, you go out to Pasadena, you go to Indy, wherever you go, like, there's going to be a sea of red yelling OHIO. And it's just been really cool to see. And so last year, even with the bad weather, I felt like, Ohio State fans really showed up for the game against Texas. And so I'm hoping the same is true this year, regardless of who we end up playing. I know Riley's kind of like, he's kind of itching to go up against A&M, but man, those A&M fans, I feel like they will pack out Jerry's World, and it'll be a clash of the maroon and red. So we'll see. We're excited though about it, and can't wait to see what happens either way.
Juliet Pettijohn, thank you so much for joining the Tim May Show. I mean, it's been a blast. Like I told you, I grew up in East Texas a long time ago, before you were ever born, even perceived to be born. But it's always a blast to talk to somebody from my home state, which, by the way, could oversee about 40 or 50,000 countries in the world. But
Right.
thank you so much for joining me.
No, I really appreciate you having me, Tim, and getting to talk about the book. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you more, and go Bucks.
There you go. And Merry Christmas, right?
Merry Christmas too. Yes, absolutely.
Man, enjoyed that conversation. Bright. I want to say brilliant young lady, but she might get mad at me for saying that. But bright person, Juliet Pettijohn. I love meeting these people. That's one of the perks of this job, is getting to know parents who give a damn, getting to know players who know what it's all about. Like I've said many times, this ilk of player right now, this era of player at Ohio State is on another level in terms of,
I always tell people,
not just football, but
this is
life.
Yes. These kids, these young men are the cream of the crop.
Not that they wouldn't take a bad, dude.
No,
if he can chop down trees with his hand.
That's right.
But the bottom line is, what a quality group of individuals, and mainly because they come from usually quality parents. Agreed?
That's it.
I know that's what the people say about your kids. Go ahead now.
Well, no, I at one point I had one son who was fairly highly recruited, and as you go through this process, you're like, wow, I wish I'd known that. And I was kind of tucking all this stuff away, and I was like, maybe I'll do a little something with that.
Yeah.
But that was 12 years ago. And the whole landscape is now changed completely with all these other variables. So I'm sure that's going to be a pretty good seller.
Yeah, absolutely it is. For
and
the thing that comes out about it more than anything else, that conversation, Juliet Pettijohn had a lot of good things to say about a lot of people. But what she said about Ryan Day, just what a quality individual he is, et cetera. And not a lot of BS to him. I mean, that's the thing about Ryan. He will smile willingly and readily, but he's a serious dude.
I like the people who thought, oh, he's whatever. He's
pushover.
He's a pushover. He's a softie or whatever. No. After he approached Sharon Moore following that game and said, we're not going to do this, move your guys here. And they were all like, oh, I didn't know he was, I was really, I'm like, well,
like when I asked him when I asked him the first question after that game, and, you never know where they're going to go, but you kind of, it's not a softball. You kind of throw that ball up there that you think they want to hit, meaning,
what would you
man, you put up with a lot of your family. I'm talking about, forget about what his family went through here in terms of losing to Michigan, but a lot of accusations during the Connor Stallions thing and just everything that was going on up there. And everybody kept trying to deflect the blame for Michigan being in trouble to Ohio State. When in fact, usually when you're in trouble, it's because of something you did. And it was,
well,
it does feel good to see them get theirs, get what's coming to them.
Well,
it really was fun to see, in a way, to see that happen, because justice usually does prevail in civilized society.
Well, it's like you hear Biff Poggi now say, for the last 5 years, what was the term he used? I mean, he sends them down the river and said, this needs to be fixed. This will take a whole, long-term recovery from the hijinks and the whatever you want to call it that's been going on here. So I think that's
malfeasance.
I think that's even more telling when one of their own, who is campaigning for the job,
right? And but of course, then as soon as you say something like that, everybody looks at you and they're like, well, you know what?
You were part.
You were the interim head coach when Sharon Moore was
That's right.
suspended. You've been on the staff. I
For
mean,
3 years.
what were you talking about in those staff meetings, right?
Right.
How to block the how to block the counter or whatever. Anyway, bottom line is Merry Christmas.
That's it, brother.
Merry
Thanks,
Christmas.
man. Thanks.
And we'll be back on Friday, post Christmas. What's that called? Boxing Day in Canada? What's that called? It's got
Is
some
it?
kind of, yeah, man, you need to get out more. I'm just saying you
I've
gotta.
only been to.
I know you went to
Niagara
Upper
Falls.
Arlington, but you went to graduate from Mississippi State. I mean, that explains a lot if you follow my drift, ladies and gentlemen.
Now we don't have time to run down all the greatness that Mississippi State has
Yeah,
done.
actually we do. We've got about 20 seconds.
Turner Catledge, for one, editor of the New York Times. You should know that.
Yeah.
Being in the print business.
Now to the
for
Stark, now to the
45
Stark,
years.
now to the Starkville Stark maker.
Anyway,
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tim
gonna get
May.
him.
I'm Tim May. That's Clay Hall, and the next time we see you, we will see you then. Shh. By the way, Clay has left the room. I wanted to let you folks in on a real bargain out there in the world of simulator golf. The Back Nine Golf, which is located at 2820 Fishinger Road in Upper Arlington, has a hell of a holiday box available to you right now. The value is nearly $300, but your price is $150 if you jump online. That's almost 50% off if you jump online at Columbus at theback9golf.com. That's their email address. Their website is theback9golf.com/Columbus-upper-Arlington-OH/ That's a long address, but just write it down a couple times watching it. And you can also call them at 614-362-7888. Parentheses PUTT, PUTT. But the bottom line is one of the new ultra modern simulators that you can find in the greater Columbus area, and it's really right there in the middle of Upper Arlington. I know Tito Thidoff and I hopped in there the other day. I think it was 16 degrees outside. There was snow and ice everywhere, and we played Pebble Beach, and we did it in less than an hour. So it's one of the great bargains going out there. And with this holiday box, you get 1 month of Birdie membership. You get Back Nine branded golf balls. You get cozy Back Nine beanie, and you get premium Back Nine towel. So that's a hell of a deal because basically it's unlimited golf. It's 24/7. You get a code to get you in the door, and then you can go from there. And it's definitely fun. It's the premises are pristine. I know we had a great time. We even played closest to the hole, a few shots on number 7, famed number 7 short par 3 at Pebble Beach the other day, and had a great time doing it. So if you're looking for that last minute gift for a golfer that you love, or yourself that you love, that you're a golfer, nothing wrong with giving yourself a gift at this time of the year. That's the Back Nine Golf holiday box, and it's only a limited time. And as you can imagine, there are only a few available. Quantities are tight. So check in at theback9golf.com.